Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Steve. How you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. You?
All right. Today is well, this week is my daughter's birthday, so today is kind of
Oh,
our
nice.
yeah. This is the weekend we're gonna like celebrate and stuff. So lots of fun activities planned.
Oh, what game did you get her?
Yeah, right. It's funny. She's actually so. I think when we had kids, like everyone knowing me thought I was gonna like kind of push all my interests on her, so she'd be like so into games and so into whatever, all this stuff. And I really haven't. I mean, I whatever, like introduce things I like, and when they kind of, they being both kids, kind of like maybe seem interested in something, I might continually introduce it. But for the most part, I'm not really like making them these crazy 80s kids or anything. But the one thing that I guess kind of stuck is Transformers for some reason, like the original old Transformers.
Hmm.
Uh, so basically, what happened is whenever we brush their teeth, nowadays it's okay, but it used to be just hell trying to get them to brush their teeth. So we started like just showing them like a YouTube video while we brush their teeth
Right.
to get them to actually calm down and let us brush their teeth. And so, like when it was me doing the teeth brushing, I'd pull out my phone and then you load up YouTube and whatever is in your history would just pop up. So I think I had watched some stupid whatever, something from the movie or something, and they saw it there and were like, "Well, what's that?" And so I was like, "Oh, it's well, let's just watch it." And so they just got caught on watching Transformers movies or like little scenes from the show or whatever on YouTube. So anyway, they like my daughter actually got into that, which is really weird almost. But uh, for her birthday, we got a few things, but amusingly, one of them is a reproduction of the old jazz toy. I don't know if you watched Transformers or remember or care, but anyway, I find it kind of really weird, I guess. But she's pretty into that character, so that's one, I guess, fun from my perspective toy that she's getting.
Yeah, I don't know, not super into it. It was like something that was on TV, so I think I did watch it a little bit between the ages of like, I don't know, 3 and 6 or something.
Hmm.
So, I don't really remember anything really other than like Optimus Prime and Megatron themselves.
Yeah, it's funny because I the movie is I mean, it's aimed at kids. It's like very much a kids movie, but it's fun. Like I can watch it now and be like, okay, cool, sure. But the TV show, like I was watching it with them, them being my kids. Man, it's one of those. I mean, I think most people must remember it with rose tinted glasses for sure, because it's definitely not the most revisitable as an adult. We'll say.
I don't know. You say it's for kids, but I'd argue that that Shia LaBeouf movie is not really for kids.
Yeah, right. A little bit violent. Yes. Well, that is not a series we've particularly indulged in.
Yeah, it's odd. With my kid, so our kids are pretty close to the same age. Mine's been 6 for a while.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, when he was younger, like in the before times, before the pandemic, he would watch Paw Patrol mostly.
Hmm.
There was a couple other shows, Puff and Rock. Like he really liked stuff that was like animals
Hmm.
focused. Uh, he almost never watches any cartoons now. Like I feel like he hasn't watched a cartoon basically since the pandemic started, which
Wow.
which was like over a year ago. Um, and like I've tried to get him to watch Ninja Turtles or something like, and he finds it scary and he just doesn't want to watch it.
That's funny. My my son is like very much like he won't stay still. Like he's that kind of personality. My daughter can just, I don't know, sit in front of a TV for hours and hours if we let her. So we do let her, like we have the Japanese TV channels, and so we let her watch. Well, we're not like crazy about being strict on stuff, but she does watch like Doraemon and like all
Mm.
the big classic TV shows. It's kind of her thing. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I don't. We're not like a big cartoon family, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I've attempted it, and I just can't get him. Like I've actually got like a list of movies that we've watched because when he was like 2, I think. We watched his first movie together. We watched Finding Dory,
Hmm.
and he absolutely loved it, even though he fell asleep partway through. And then there's been like a couple others that we've watched, like Zootopia. He really liked Frozen and Frozen 2.
Hmm.
His absolute favorite movie is Kiki's Delivery Service.
We've
And
watched Totoro like, I mean, oh man, 50 times maybe. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
it's committed to both kids' memories.
well, I think he's watched Totoro twice, maybe, but he's watched Kiki like probably 10 times or so. And it's like, for some reason, he has it in his mind right now that he doesn't want to watch any movies. Like whenever we're like, oh
Mm,
man, we should watch Whisker Away or The Cat Returns or something. He's just like, no, let's just watch Kiki.
yeah.
And it's just like, if we're not gonna bend and watch Kiki, he's not gonna watch anything. Uh,
Doesn't want to risk having it not as good an experience.
yeah, maybe. Um, so it was interesting. Like I was visiting my parents during the pandemic, and we sat down. My mom and dad and myself and kid all watched Kiki together. I think that's the first animated movie my mom's watched since.
You were born.
Well, pretty much. If it wasn't one that I worked on personally,
Yeah.
she hasn't seen it.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, not exactly related, but just on the Kiki note, that's actually one of my, I think of the Ghibli movies, that's my wife's favorite movie.
Hmm.
And so she tried to get our kids into it, and they've seen it. It just never stuck. It's not a Totoro for them, I guess.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, I think where I said my kid is like he doesn't want to watch Ninja Turtles because it's scary. It's like I think that's the thing with movies is that almost every movie I can think of has like this high stakes aspect to it where it's like there's the setup, the conflict, the climax, and the
Hmm.
resolution, and it's
Hmm.
like there's got to be some tense moment in it, and it doesn't matter how big that is. He's generally afraid of it, and it's like Kiki doesn't really have that. I mean, there's the
There's
I
the
mean,
blimp.
I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but but yeah, there's like the blimp, but that's not really happening to Kiki herself. That's happening to someone else, and she's just like finally like learning to
Hmm.
get her own inner strength to help out the situation.
She
But
takes
it's
some
like,
scary falls.
yeah, but I don't know. It's not quite the same as like Spirited Away, where it's like this kind of like
Yeah.
horror moment with your
Yeah.
parents turning into pigs and stuff. And
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bit of that with my kids. They definitely scare super easy. I think that's mostly, as far as I can tell, not as much a thing as it was like a couple years ago. But I would argue probably Totoro is the one that like really just has no frightening scenes at all.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just like a chill story right through to the end. So
yeah, yeah. He found Finding Nemo too scary to
yeah,
really get
the
through.
shark
Yeah,
chase.
exactly.
Yeah, it's all dark and fast. No, my kids, that freaked them
Yeah,
out. That's a big hide behind the couch moment for sure. Yep.
yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, he's not really into. He does watch a lot of YouTube. There's, I don't get the appeal personally. Like he watches a lot of streamers, and he watches a lot of like parents forcing their kids to open up toys every week, and
What?
there's like this weird culture on YouTube where it's like rich people will buy like every Thomas the Tank Engine toy and then put them into a giant paper mache egg, and then the kid has to break open the egg. And
They film their kids and put them
yeah,
on. What?
yeah, so it's
Sometimes
like
I'm happy I'm out of touch with everything.
it's weird. It's like we're constantly having discussions with him about like this is wasteful, and you shouldn't just like have consume toys and stuff nonstop. And uh it's weird to be lecturing my kid about the content that he's watching. And
Yeah.
it's so hard. It's like I can't really find any filters on like how do I block a channel and prevent that
Mhm.
one channel from coming up.
You'd think there'd be something. I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. My kids are, as far as YouTube goes, they're really into, and it's also wasteful. And I also don't understand the appeal at all. But those you might have seen them videos where you make slime. Have you seen these?
Yep. Yep.
I like some of them are like 40 minutes long,
Yeah.
and I'm bored in 40
20 seconds.
seconds. Yeah, like I totally don't get the appeal. But for kids, I guess it's colorful. Every time they bring out a new object to mix, it's interesting maybe, and
Yeah.
seeing this stuff bubble around. But like I'm watching it like, and then once it's done, they want to either watch another one or watch the same one.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Yeah.
uh, uh.
So I don't know. I guess I feel lucky in the sense that like my interest has been gaming, um, and I started doing that with him fairly early on, just because I got sick of reading like the same book over and over and over, and I wanted to get something that was like puzzle solving and stuff as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm. Yep.
So like some of the first games that I can remember playing with him were like point and click adventure stuff, like Lumino City and Machinarium, which were like, I don't know, v- quite simple games,
Hmm.
but it's the classic point and click adventure stuff where it's like you kind of pixel hunt for stuff and pick up an item and then figure out where to use it and whatnot. And I was pretty surprised because we were doing that when I think he hadn't turned 3 yet.
Hmm.
And he was already like standing up next to the TV and like telling me what to look for, and he was sometimes finding stuff that I wasn't finding.
Excellent. I mean, I think any game that has the potential to kind of build on those basic skills and get kids really interested in having fun without scaring them is going to be
Yeah,
like an awesome thing. This seems to have been something you've been very successful at, I guess.
yeah,
Um, Getting your kid, like, I don't know, involved in social gaming with you. So I'm very curious for your whole process since he was playing those games all the way to now. Um,
yeah. I mean, that's largely what it was. It was like, I don't know, maybe trying to bring him up to my level a little bit because I didn't like I was bored out of my mind sitting there with his Thomas the Tank Engine trains making train sounds on the tracks and stuff. Like I didn't want to be spending my time doing that.
mhm.
So,
I,
so
I, I hear you. Yes, I hear you.
so I don't know. I would cater to that now and then because he's a kid and that sort of stuff is fun for him. But
Mm,
I tried getting him interested in the stuff that I was interested in so that we could have mutual enjoyment.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, I don't know. Like I'm looking. I've written down all the games that we've beaten together, and it's like we've played through 46 games together.
That's insane. I haven't even played through that many games probably since my kids have been born. I'm sure, like alone or in any capacity.
Yeah, it's like when he was going on 3, we played through 3 games together, and at that point, like 2 of them were point and clicks, and it was largely him telling me what to do, and then we went with an Ubisoft game called Grow Home.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but you're a robot who has to. Your ship has like, I don't know. You're trying to recultivate your planet or something. So you're on this planet and you're trying to find samples of plants and scanning them so that you have a record of them and can bring that back to your own planet.
Okay.
And it's like this, you know, it starts off at like ground level on an island, and if you go into the water you fall apart and then you just immediately respawn next to your little teleporter machine, and so you're finding seeds and bringing it to your teleporter machine, and when you've got enough, there's like a giant plant that you can start growing, and as it grows up into the sky it unlocks new horizontal levels that you can go to and explore, and you're constantly making that thing go up vertically until you get to your ship, and hopefully you've collected all the seeds and stuff. But it was a 3D game, and there's like no enemies in it. It's all just like
Right.
plants and cute little creatures, and there's like no challenges other than just like controlling your character.
And this is a game you played with him when you said it before he was 3.
Yeah. So he couldn't do much with it at that point. Like
Hmm.
he was excited to get the controller in his hand and make the thing move, and he would just like spin the camera around, and like that was enough for him to like have fun. And then he'd eventually give the controller to me because he knew that I could actually control it, and he was excited to watch me, and he would like, tell me where things are so that I would go get them. So
Mm,
it's almost like he was playing the game by just telling me what to do.
gotcha. You're like his proxy. You're
Yeah,
you're his interface to the game. I'm gonna. That was kind of my question. Like a 3-year-old. Um, I mean, in my experience with my kids, I mean,
yeah,
even now they're not exactly good at any games. So
yeah,
a 3-year-old is very, yeah, maybe a little harder to like have. being in there, taking part.
Well, there's this weird thing that I see on like Reddit and Twitter and stuff where a lot of gamer dads will give their kid a second controller and like just tell them, "Oh yeah, you're playing along, but like the controller's not even plugged in." And it's
It's like
like,
a big joke, yeah.
yeah, it's like a big joke, and I never wanted to like prank my kid like that. Like I wanted him
Mhm.
to enjoy the experience and play with me, right? So
Yep.
I I was never like trying to do like Mario Kart while he watches. Like I was trying to pick stuff that was like suitable for him that like he could pick up the controller and actually try to do something and not like feel bad.
So my question is, what level of involvement do you aim for? Like, there's those games where like there's kind of a second player option, but they just
Hmm.
don't really do too much. Maybe
Hmm.
like I'm thinking actually like Mario Galaxy, for example, where like the second
Yep.
player can collect the stars, and then there's the games where like second player is really like involved, but maybe doesn't actually need to accomplish anything. It's like say a Double Dragon game where you could be beating up everybody, and the second player could be wandering in circles, but they're actually playing. Like, how do you balance that?
Well, we do a combination. Like I said, the first two were kind of ones where he's telling me what to do.
Hmm.
Then by the time he was 3, we got into a game called Staxel, which I
Hmm.
had gotten as like part of a humble bundle thing, and it's like
That's
a
a farming game or whatever.
yeah, it's like a voxel based thing, kind of like Minecraft, where you can
Hmm.
build stuff and break stuff apart, and it's also kind of like Harvest Moon, where you've got a farm and you plant crops and then harvest them and sell them. But it's casual, like there's no time limit to the game. It just goes as long as you feel like playing it.
Hmm.
Um, so that was one of the first ones that he was playing, and he would actually play.
Cool.
Like he didn't do anything really, but he, built up the motor skills that he was moving the character around where he wanted it. He was like running and jumping, and his favorite thing to do at that point was just pick flowers.
Hmm.
So like he didn't like build the farm. He just like wandered around the countryside picking flowers.
Yeah, I mean, whatever's fun, right?
Yeah.
Play the game in the way you like it.
Um, And then if he actually wanted to do anything, like he'd hand the controller back to me and like tell me, like, we got to build our house up. We got to build a house for the neighbor or whatever. And
Okay.
that's something he started when he was 3, and like we were still playing that like just like 2 months ago. Like he actively wants to revisit that and continue building up. Like we're building cafes and stuff in it. Like we built a giant treetop cafe, and we built like a giant uh, home for someone inside of a mountain, decorated with glow in the dark mushrooms and glow in the dark water and stuff. And uh, but
Right on.
from that, uh, we started with like the Banjo Kazooie.
Like the
Uh,
old one.
the original Banjo Kazooie. Like would play that, and he would tell me where everything was, like as a proxy. And then after that, we went on to Mario Odyssey,
Hmm.
and that I guess is kind of where it becomes like the two-player experience for us.
Yeah, where he's
Was
like the collecting the stars or playing with the hat thing or whatever.
Yeah, that was a really fun one because like you're Mario and he's the hat, and he can spin around and collect coins, and he can also help you jump higher.
Right
So
on.
it was fun that like we would play chase where he would like spin around and I would have to try to catch him, and which is impossible because the hat is faster than Mario. But
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, that was I guess the first co-op game for us was that one, and yeah, loved it. We've 100% collected everything in the game, I think 3 times.
Wow.
uh, which that's not my favorite thing, but it's hard to say no when he's like so excited to do it.
Yeah.
um, Probably the next one by the time he turned 4 was Yoshi's Crafted World on the Switch, and that's like a standard 2D platformer game, kind of. It's 2-player, like simultaneous co-op, so you're each controlling a Yoshi at the same time. That
Is
game,
that oh, okay? No, I'm thinking. So there was a Kirby game where you're like made out of yarn, and I think this is was that was like the Yoshi game that's kind of a little like different in a
well,
similar vein, isn't it?
yeah, it's like
Remind me.
it stemmed from that. Like there was a Yoshi one like that on the 3DS, which we've played, and that's not 2-player. Like that's just it's on the 3DS.
Hmm.
And that borrowed from the same Kirby aesthetic where everything is made out of yarn and stuff. And then I guess they took that aesthetic and ran with it for the Yoshi's Crafted world. So everything is crafted, not necessarily yarn. Like there's lots of paper cutouts and everything. The
Mm,
aesthetic to the game is fantastic. Like they did a really nice job of doing it.
cool.
Um, that game was really really well designed in my opinion, because like my kid was 4 and we were able to play that all the way through. And um, they've got different difficulty settings for it,
Mm.
and they've actually got a few variances on that, I think. So the first thing is that you can change between single player and 2 player at any time. Like midway through the level you can change.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. So you can effectively shut off the second player.
yeah, so like whenever we're at a boss and he found it scary, he would shut off his player and I would just have to do the boss by myself.
Mm, okay.
They've also got it like once it is second player, um, whenever the second player dies, like you don't have lives,
Hmm.
so you just like turn into an egg and kind of float around, I think, and then the other Yoshi can catch you. So whenever he would fall in a pit, for example, he never felt really punished by it. I was able to rescue him, and he was able to just keep playing.
He doesn't have like a timeout period,
Well,
effectively, or anything.
the timeout period is like 5 seconds or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He doesn't get stuck watching you play for the rest of the level or whatever.
Yeah. So
Yep.
it felt like something he could keep doing. And then I guess there's another difficulty setting where you can let Yoshi fly. So as long as you are holding the jump button, you'll do a little flutter that kind of bobs up and down a few pixels. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
like
Classic
the,
Yoshi thing.
so there are no pits that you can't get across, even if your jumping skills suck, because you can stay in the air infinitely. And they
Oh,
also
okay. Yep.
and they also added a little trick to that where if you time it right, not only can you stay in the air infinitely, but you can gain height.
Yep. Okay.
So like even if you fall and you don't catch yourself until you're at the bottom of the pit, you can time it and work your way up, and it's like improving your timing skills with pressing the button. So even on failure, you're getting better at the game.
So it sounds like it was designed for your exact use case of parent and
Yeah,
like maybe not so skilled little
yeah.
kid.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and I guess another way that they help out with that is that you can eat each other. So if there is like a jump that he's struggling with, I can like eat
Hmm.
him and carry him past the jump and then spit him back out.
Gotcha. Yep.
Um, you guys like share eggs. Like if I eat him, I would steal all his eggs that he had trailing behind him that he uses as a weapon. So then there's like this little competitive aspect with each other where like you can steal each other's eggs, and he found that hilarious. Um, you can unlock costumes like armor that you can get, and so like the common ones like let you take an extra hit without dying, and then like the rare ones let you take 5 extra hits without dying. And
Okay.
you don't have to wear the armor. So like if I'm finding it a little bit boring, I don't have to choose armor, but he can like use the super rare one and stay in the game longer. Like there was a lot of options to make the game easy.
Right.
And so it was perfect as a 4 year old. He loved that game, and it was easy enough that once he got skilled, like his grandmother came over who's never played a video game ever, and so she was playing this with him, and he's able to like coach her along with it.
Right on.
Whereas like you'd never be able to do that with like the original Mario Brothers, right? Like it's like
Different times.
yeah, it's like totally different level of punishment that you get out of it. So
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's not like I remember, but I feel like definitely in terms of accessibility and things like basically like everything you're talking about, things have gotten way way better. I think there was an element of like, I mean, again, maybe this is probably like a rose-colored view of the past, but everyone has this. There's almost this joke on the internet about how since games were way harder back then, harder being just less well
punishing.
designed really, but since they were so much harder back then, we were all like these hardcore gamers, and now everyone has it so easy. Like you see that kind of meme every now and then, right?
Mm,
Which is weird to me because I grew up in those past times, and whenever I try and play some game online, I just get destroyed by all the masters that are like live on the internet.
yeah,
But I don't know. I feel like I don't remember being bad at Mario. If that makes
I
sense.
do.
Like, yeah, okay. Well, I feel like when it's like the early '90s and the only thing in your house is Mario One or whatever, and you have no
Yeah,
friends, and you just play it every week, and you get good
yeah.
fast. Right? It's not like these were better times, but they're just I don't know. That's my
I
is
I
what your
I
rosy
I
view.
I remember really not enjoying that game because we didn't quote unquote have a Nintendo. We would
Hmm.
rent one. So it's like once every couple months or something, we would rent it, and then we would rent Mario, and I would still suck at it because it's there's no time to get good at it when you're not playing it.
That's funny.
So it's like when you've rented this game like 3 times over like a 6 month period, and you're still like dying at World 4. It's just like, come on, can I
Yeah,
please do something else?
I mean, I think that's a very different experience than I'll say most people, if you will, who basically just got the game and just played it constantly. And at some
Yeah,
point, it becomes like a pattern in your mind, and your reflexes are just, I don't know, they just adjust to how the game is built, and you can just clear it out pretty quick.
yeah.
I guess maybe I'm just talking up my ass. I don't know. But yes, we will concede that design for accessibility is something that has come a long way. It sounds like you're a big fan of this Yoshi game.
Yeah, it was really fun. Like there's a lot of games like that. Like I didn't get a Wii or a Wii U
Hmm.
or an N64. Like I Nintendo and Super Nintendo were the first consoles that I had, and I really enjoyed the games, but in the Sony era I really got more into JRPGs, and Nintendo kind of stopped being the machine for that, so it stopped being the machine for me.
Hmm.
Um so I wouldn't have even had a Switch, I don't think, if I had a kid.
If
Uh,
you had not had a kid,
yeah, like I was really like, again, like the Final Fantasy VII remake came out, and I knew that was on PlayStation 4, and I was really, really thinking hard about whether or not I should get a PS4 Pro a few years ago.
hmm,
And I was like kind of on the fence about doing that, and then my wife gave me a Switch for my birthday, and I was like, okay, well, now that I've
you were
got
like,
this,
"Oh
I'm not going to
shit."
get a PlayStation 4. Like, I'm going to use the console I had. It's not necessarily what I was thinking of getting, but I'm going to enjoy it. And I feel like there's been so many games that I've played on that with my kid that it's just been like my kid's totally going to have the same impression that like Nintendo is like the best system to have because it's got so many things that he loves on it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Which is funny because a lot of games now are available on multiple things. Like half the stuff he's played, he could have played it on anything else.
Yeah, yeah. There's something about the Switch. It's a very accessible system too. That was actually one of my questions I had in mind for you, since you've done a lot more kind of playing with your kids. Is
Hmm.
like, as far as systems, like, I mean, I'm thinking like, say, handheld versus the home
Hmm.
setup. Like, is there kind of a setup that works better for you? Like you're talking about how the Switch has worked in terms of like the games that you play for it, but do you
Hmm.
find that like he enjoys that more than like sitting down on the couch to play the PlayStation, or not really?
Well, um, no, there are games that he's played on both,
Right on.
and so he acknowledges it. Like if he wants to play Astro's Playroom, that's on the PlayStation 5. That's what he needs to play, and for him, it's no different. But like when he wants to play Mario Odyssey, like that's the Switch. That's
Hmm.
what you go to. So he hasn't expressed that he prefers one controller over the other. Like he's used an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a Switch controller, and likes them all equally. The thing that he does like is there's like a little holster thing that you can get for your Switch where you can put the two Joy Cons in and use it like as a controller instead of two independent hands.
Yep.
And so, if he's playing Mario Party or something like that, that's what he wants to use is to put the controller in like that. Whereas if we're playing Mario Odyssey, like, he's always used it as the Joy-Con, so that's what he wants is just the single Joy-Con.
Right on. Right on. Interesting, interesting. Well, if I can inject with my own tidbits a little bit here,
Hmm.
I, I think so. My situation is a little different. We have two kids, and it's very hard to like be doing something with one kid while the other kid is off doing something else, kind of
Hmm.
situation. And so, like with games, like even say the Yoshi game, I don't know if there's a three-player option, for example, right? Like it kind of parent and one kid. That situation is less likely to work out well since the two kids will just fight over that second player position. And so, um, in terms of like the gaming I've been doing with them, I tend to look for games that uh, are like maybe two player, but so easy that even they can
Mm.
just both kind of just play them without me having to guide the experience constantly. Or at the very least, I can kind of sit back and they play, and then when they get stuck, I can step in and help. Um, or
I'd say the age that they're at right now, Yoshi's Crafted would definitely be a good one for that they could both play.
You think that the older, the 6-year-old could run with the player one role?
Yeah, like it's. I mean,
I think you're
it's hard to
judging
say.
on
I'm
your own
I'm
six year
judging
old's
based
ability.
on I'm judging based on his own ability, but like he
Yeah,
was playing it when he was 4, right? So
in the 2P role. Well, I mean,
yeah,
I'm thinking like, I mean, I think you've played the same game too, but the Untitled Goose Game, for
yeah, yeah,
example.
yeah, yeah.
There's some difficulties, like especially my 3-year-old. He can kind of get lost with all the buttons, and so like when your
Right.
goose needs to like duck under something, like I need to be like, okay, here's the button you hold, just try and remember that, and you can go under. But for the most part, I can be that third person, just watching, making sure it goes okay, and
Yeah.
then they can just play. And even though I'm sick to death of that game because I wanted to play it so often, I mean, man, imagine watching the same movie that you're not really that interested in like 50 times. Like it's just
Yeah.
but I mean, they enjoy it and they seem
Yeah.
to be kind of learning stuff and figuring things out. And it's exactly that kind of game that is like not scary,
Yeah.
pretty chill. Kids can play it. It's funny. They're laughing, and
Yeah.
so that's been a really good one for us. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, like I I'm with you. I certainly wouldn't just hand them a controller and say like, "You guys are playing too. Trust me," and like prank my kids.
Yeah.
I I try to avoid the situation of like I'm playing and they're watching
Yeah.
because there's nothing for them. Even though they seem to like drive for that a little bit. I mean, they're kids and they just want something to watch sometimes, right? Um, so like if I'm trying to play some game where maybe like I kind of let them take the lead, but I'll step in and kind of help with the hard parts.
Yeah.
If I'm not careful, I'll find myself just playing because that's almost like what they're satisfied with when it's just too difficult. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a sign of having picked a game that's not really working because it's like they just can't consistently have fun with it if they're
Mhm.
constantly handing the controller back to me. But one thing I've found is like, I mean, you probably remember my ridiculous game room. There's like enough systems everywhere. So I
Mhm.
have like a lot of handheld systems. So I have like the DS, I have a 3DS, I have a Switch. And sometimes they'll each play one of those systems. And so they can kind of find a one player game that's fun.
Mhm.
And then since there's two kids, either they fight over the one system or they each grab a system and grab a game they like. And so, like, my daughter's been playing a lot of Animal Crossing,
Right.
and my wife had a save game that she had been playing. So my daughter will just load that up and see that it's mama in the game and then go around and like do all these things and have a lot of fun with it. And she's at the stage too where she can like, again, I can't believe how quick reading skill improves in a child
Yeah.
from age 4 to 6, goes from 0 to like wow. But she can just play the game. Like I could just not be there and she can just play everything.
From age 5 and 11 months to 6 and 4 months, there's just
Yeah,
been
it's
an
crazy.
explosive
It's
difference in
crazy.
his reading.
Yeah, crazy. And like in two languages, even for my daughter, like I
Yeah.
can't believe how well she can do that. It just anyway, kids are crazy. But that's her. And then my son has been playing Nintendogs, if you
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
It's just so dumb, right? You have the stick and you're poking the dogs and like bring them on walks and stuff. That was a bigger challenge at first. I mean, he's younger and you can't really read. Like you need to read to know what's going on,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of pop-ups and a lot of menus and stuff. But he's gotten used to it. Like he knows where the like where the
Yeah.
walk, take the dog for the walk menu is. And I'm there. Like I'm not like off in my own
Yeah.
world, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
helping him with it. And so, it's weird because I'd like kind of activities we could all do together, and that just gets really hard with like three people. At least with the games I have,
Yeah,
I
there's
would
a
happily take recommendations. But these are kind of my approaches that have worked.
well, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, certainly it is unfortunate that Yoshi can't be 3-player, right?
Hmm.
Um, there are some games that allow it, but they're tricky. Like the new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, you can have 4 players on screen at once.
Hmm.
And man, I've never heard my wife swear so much as when we play that game, because it got to the point where like it started with my kid and I playing that together.
Hmm.
And so he got kind of good at it, and then we incorporated my wife into it, and she wasn't good at it. So my kid is playing. There's like a. Have you played that one?
I don't even know. I've played so many. I probably have actually the
I
Wii
think it was
U one.
originally on Wii or Wii U, and then it's been
Hmm.
ported to Switch. So there's a character named Nabbit in it, which
He steals stuff and you
basically,
have to chase him or something.
yeah. But when you're doing 4-player mode or multiplayer mode, one of you can be him,
Okay.
and so he doesn't take damage from enemies.
Hmm.
And anytime he collects a power up, he doesn't use the power up. He just saves it, and if you get to the end of the level, then you get a free life for whatever items you've collected.
Hmm.
So my kid loved playing that one, and so it's a breeze for him. Like he doesn't worry about enemies at all. He can just jump and
Hmm.
run through anything. So he starts speed running, and then because he's
You can
running,
keep up.
well, it's like
Wife cannot.
yeah, it's like I could keep up. Andrew couldn't. And it's like every now and then there's like, a pipe jutting up out of the ground. And if you're on the left side of that pipe as the screen is panning, when the edge of the screen slams you against the pipe, you die. So he's like speed running through the levels, constantly killing her.
Is
it's
how's the
it's
accessibility? Is she able to get back in pretty quick?
Yeah, but I mean, she's not Nabbit. Like we don't have nearly as many lives because he just like he's just gathering them like crazy. So eventually she might run out of lives, but
Nice.
uh, but that was a you might have to wait a little bit longer till your youngest can handle that game because it is a little bit difficult. But that was an incredibly fun and frustrating experience simultaneously because you can kill each other and it's not nearly as easy as Yoshi.
Right on.
But it is a 4-player game. My kid really liked Mario Party, which is 4-player.
Yep. Yep.
Mario Kart 8 is 4-player. Um,
Mario Kart isn't that a little challenging? Like, can he compete?
well, he can now actually. When we started off, we would just do 2-player, just
Hmm. And you
um,
kind of
like time trial type mode
throw
where
him a bone a little bit.
yeah, there was no AI and I'm not gonna just crush his spirit by like beating him when he can't even like figure out how to do one lap.
Yeah.
But so I would basically just like hang out with him and like drive circles around him and like coach him on how to do it. And eventually he understood and could finish the laps. And so then we started doing it with like AI, and he was not too happy at first, but like that I think is the game that taught him how to lose.
Oh wow.
Like kids are not very good at losing.
Yep.
but the first couple times he played, I think he was like maybe 12, maybe 11, and then eventually like 6 or so, and he has actually finished first a couple times, again partially because I'm helping him.
Hmm.
Like to me, when I'm playing with him, it's not about doing as good as I can. It's like about trying to help him. Like I'll hang back in third, like trying to shoot turtle shells at anyone that's getting close to him
Right on. Yeah.
so I can help him win.
Yeah.
um but he's I think he was 4 the first time he played that. Uh, and now at 6 he can play it effectively. So Mario Kart multiplayer, Mario Party multiplayer. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any other games on my list that were like 3 to 4 player. Um,
Yeah. One game I was thinking of, and I don't know how well it would go, but was the Zelda Four Swords.
mm,
I keep it's almost like a it's not funny or anything, but I guess like a running joke or something that like so in the Zelda games, I think I've played like all of them right up until that one. Like the I played the first one, but I didn't play the second Four Swords game.
yeah,
And so I'm kind of like waiting for them to get old enough, and maybe I'm just gonna like try playing it and see how it goes. But I had a blast with that game, and it's everyone plays it at the same time. And I think it is a game where I mean you have to cooperate to do things. So
yeah,
there's I think there's the right amount of challenge there, but and yet like when say there's like a boss or something, basically one person can kind of handle it while the other two like run around in circles.
yeah, yeah,
And so the cooperative things are less really hard boss fights and scary things, and more like this guy has to stand on the switch while this other person has to pull this other thing. Like you
mm,
kind of place the characters in the right places to solve a puzzle.
mm.
So I had that one in mind. I haven't like maybe it's totally not going to work out. I haven't
Maybe another
figured that
year.
out yet.
Maybe
Yeah,
another
yeah,
year. But I
yeah.
mean, so I mean, that was one of the. I didn't play that, but I played Secret of Mana
Hmm.
with my kid on co-op, and that's uh, it's the sort of game where like if you play that single player, there's an AI character running around with you that's kind of useless.
Oh
So
God,
switching
yeah.
that to 2-player wasn't a whole lot different.
It's at least as good.
Yeah, but he really liked that one, and that was cool for him where he's like getting to like equip the axe and chop down bushes and stuff, and like get
Yeah.
practice controlling stuff, and I'm there as like the good player trying to like constantly bail him out and stuff. Like there's definitely a different challenge when you're like acting as the mentor and not
Yeah.
just being like mad that the AI isn't doing what you want it to do.
Yeah. Where
So
you are helpless in that second situation.
yeah, so like I can totally imagine like the Four Swords being fun, where it's like
Hmm.
you said one person could handle the boss on their own while the other two run around. So it's like if you're thinking of it as the challenge of like you've got to keep your two little what are they called in games, escort missions, where you've got to like keep an AI alive.
Effectively. So with Zelda Four Swords, I'm basing. So I played the first one, the Game Boy Advance one,
Yeah.
and I'm making a perhaps blatant assumption that the GameCube one is the same type of game. But one thing I know about the GameCube one that is different is that you can actually just play it single player.
Mm,
And from my understanding, basically, it's almost like Secret of Mana, where the other characters just become AI. I don't know how that works with the puzzle stuff. Maybe you can switch between them or something. But that makes me think, at least for any like really hard like battles and stuff, probably you're basically alone. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like the contribution to those scary parts that you need from player 2, 3, 4 is probably pretty nil, just like in
yeah.
the Secret of Mana days. So yeah, I'll report back when we finally play it.
Nice. Yeah, Link's Awakening is was one of my kids' favorite.
Yeah.
Um, that was one where he largely sat beside me and like told me where to go and stuff because he felt like he wasn't good enough to take down the enemies. But
Hmm.
every now and then he did like ask for the controller and he would play stuff. So eventually, I think by the time we beat it and we were like super strong, then he would just like load up the game afterwards and wander around by himself doing stuff.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he loved that game.
Cool. That's another one of those types of things that's more difficult with multiple kids because
Yeah,
like it would require both of them being in the mood to maybe play in that way. And then
yeah,
once one gets bored, like, what do you do, right? You kind of cut the game early, and so you can only play it when
yep,
everyone's super on board, or else kids are missing kind of like parts of the story. If one kid like goes off and does their own thing or
yep,
something.
yep.
And we have that's another thing that's interesting to call out too. I think is we obviously sometimes like our daughter, for example, is doing remote school sometimes, and
Hmm.
so like maybe I'm so she does Japanese school on Saturday mornings right now. And so I generally take our younger son and we just do our stuff while she's doing that. And so like if there's a game or TV show we've been watching, or that kind of one of those activities that continues, excuse me, over a long period of time, we
Hmm.
can't do that right then because
Yep.
my daughter will miss out and be upset, right? And so like you kind of have to like it just gets I can see that getting harder and harder in the future too, obviously, where like the kids are going to be doing different things at different times. And so
Yeah.
either each kid has their own game or series, or they just don't care enough that when they miss stuff, it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's just something to make it a little more challenging for us multi-kid people.
I mean, I can see both harder and easier in the sense that like maybe the schedules are harder to line up as they get older, but also easier in that they'll be more patient waiting for the other person. Like when my kid, like we had played Pokemon Sword, I think
Hmm.
last year. Yeah. And like that was one where because there was so much reading involved,
Hmm.
I kind of had to play that with him. Like I
Hmm.
was doing it, and it wasn't a two-player game.
Yeah.
So he's like telling me what to do, and he's getting excited, and or he would play, and I would be reading stuff to him. But he got so excited to do that that every now and then he would like, wake up at like 6 in the morning, and he would play a whole bunch and just like skip through stuff.
Skip the talking. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that was annoying for me because it's
You
like,
load up. You'd wake up to a totally different save file.
yeah. So he kind of learned that I wasn't happy with him doing that, and he started getting more patient and would like play something else while I was asleep, and then play that with me. Um,
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of learning.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's anything of that nature. I find is a challenge. It's just a struggle with the kids fighting over who gets to do what. So to your point that like it's just something they need to learn. I think that regardless of games or non-games, as soon as
Yeah,
that element is there, it's just a little more challenging. Is just kind of how I'd bookend that point.
yeah. One game you guys could consider is the Let's Go Pikachu or Let's Go Eevee. Um, it's a
I'll write
that's
it down.
it's a so it was modeled off of the original like Pokemon Yellow game.
Hmm.
So it's like a single player JRPG sort of, but they like simplified it quite a bit. So in the original, every single Pokemon you caught, you had to uh, fight against them and then weaken them and
Hmm.
then throw a Pokeball at them, and it was just like a menu option.
Yep.
Whereas in this one, when you battle trainers, you issue commands with your Pokemon and fight. But when you're catching Pokemon, it's almost like Pokemon Go on your phone, where you just have to throw the balls.
Okay.
And so
Mm.
you use the Joy-Con to actually like do a throwing motion to throw your ball, and you try to time it and get better throws, and have to do like curveballs and stuff. Um, but it's also two player.
Okay.
So the one player like walks around the map and engages in all the dialogue and stuff, but the second player also gets to throw a Pokeball, and like you can try to time your throws at the same time to have better shot at catching stuff. And you both get to have a Pokemon that you control in battles, so the battles are like super easy because you have
Mm.
two Pokemon fighting one. Um, so you might be at the age where your older kid could be like reading a lot of that stuff out loud while your younger kid is enjoying in the participation of playing along too.
I'll definitely check it out. I've always found Pokemon to be kind of weird in that way, where it feels like there's just such a high amount of appeal for little kids. Like
Hmm.
they can watch the TV show and they can get the stuffed animals and be excited about it and learn all the names. But the game is just it's an RPG type thing, and so like if you hand that to a 3-year-old, they're not going to know what to do, right?
Yeah,
And so like they want to play it, but get frustrated immediately unless I'm like baby stepping them through every single decision and movement and everything. And so
yeah.
like if there's I'd have to try the Let's Go series, but we've been kind of looking for a more, I guess, accessible
It's
Pokemon game.
it's the most accessible one,
Yeah.
especially because, like I said, you can do it two player. So it's like
Mm,
it takes so much of the challenge out of it,
cool.
and it's really just like a fun experience. Like I was super disappointed that they've announced they're making new Pokemon remakes of, I don't know, Silver or Gold or something. I never really played them, so I don't know what the
Mm.
different versions are. Um, I was disappointed that they've announced new remakes, but they're not doing it in the style of the Let's Go games, because it was like absolutely perfect to play with a young kid.
In their defense, I mean, every one of those games is so insanely popular.
Yeah,
They probably have a fan base they don't want to disappoint.
yeah. I mean, I feel like it really worked because
Mm,
because it took an old game and made it feel like a new, fresh game instead of just literally a remake with better graphics.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't know. Um, but yeah,
cool.
I feel that that's largely what we do is co-op games. Like his definite preference is if we can both be playing simultaneously, that's what he wants to be doing. But like we're playing a game right now. Let me just make sure I got the name right. I think the company was Hello Games. Hello Games. Yeah, so Sean Murray, who did that was the company that was behind No Man's Sky,
Okay.
which you may have heard of because of that was so incredibly controversial with how they overhyped the game and then didn't deliver on it.
Oh, I know.
But they've published a new game called The Last Campfire, which is um, it's a nice little single player puzzle solving game where you kind of move around in third person, similar to the Zelda games, but there's no combat in it at all. Um,
Cool.
and so that's single player, and we just started playing that yesterday, and so it's interesting because like you were saying how like you didn't really want to play these single player games because you find that you're playing it most of the time, and he's now at the point where he's able to handle a lot of that, so he's
Hmm.
kind of taking the charge now, and he's playing this, and I'm kind of the one watching and coaching him through. And every now and then the puzzle's too hard and he gives me the controller. But it's a, I don't know, an interesting progression where we are,
You've switched roles.
yeah, we are doing some single player stuff now too.
So that's actually, I think, something that it doesn't seem to be a problem you have, but it's something I've kind of struggled with in terms of like playing games with the kids. Is just like finding fun for myself, which sounds really weird, I know, but
Mm.
despite my own interest in games, I find being really subordinate or being super focused on making sure they have fun makes it not as fun an experience for me. Now, it still can be fun, and I just want the kids to have fun. So if they're having fun, that's great. But like
Mm-hmm.
generally, I find, for example, my son is really into I don't even know what you call those things, like like you have like a marble and you drop it and it goes through a course and you build the course yourself and it knocks
Right.
over dominoes and like almost like a what do they call those things?
Rube Goldberg.
Yeah, yeah, one of those kind of. And so we're always like building those and he's so into it and I find it kind of interesting. And like it's almost more fun for me. Like playing games alone is fun, or
Mm-hmm.
playing certain games that they're really into and we can hand the controller back and forth is fun. But I think I wouldn't necessarily enjoy, say, I mean, like you talked about playing Secret of Mana.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd enjoy. Well, it sounds like you were kind of able to just put them in second, put your kid in second player for that game. But like
Mm-hmm.
a game maybe where like you would have been able to power through it alone, but now it's going to take you 4 times as long to get through because you're playing with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I sound horrible saying this. I don't know. I don't really find that fun unless it's really fun for them. And from what I've seen, they tend to kind of maybe get a little frustrated with certain games and want to do something else. And so I haven't felt the value in encouraging them necessarily to stick with it when they seem to want to stop playing the game and then go and like draw or go and like build
Yeah.
these crazy contraptions and stuff. And so in that way, I think that's where maybe we've been kind of different. Like maybe your kid is just more into games or something than my kids have been, or maybe I
Yeah.
haven't
Like
done a good
he's
job.
constantly begging me to play stuff. So.
Well, my kids do too, I think, but I don't know. I just feel like once we get playing, it just sometimes it's not maybe the experience they thought it would be. Or like
Mm.
sometimes my kids will like beg to watch movies or something. And I mean, we could just stick a movie on and they'll, not say anything and sit there for hours and just watch the movie. But like, it's not like we'd rather take them out somewhere and then they end up having more fun, even though at first they thought they wouldn't. So just finding that balance, I think, has been kind of a challenge for me,
Mm.
a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see where part of that challenge just stems from having a third person there, because it's like, how do you maintain that third
Yeah.
person's interests? Like no matter which person it is, there's going to be someone who's less engaged than the other two.
Well,
Uh,
even just quick one time, like I think you might have a similar experience. My wife is just not at all into games. I mean, she plays uh, Animal Crossing
mhm.
and maybe a few other little things, but like not at all into like anything challenging or kind of like the level of stuff that I am. And so one time I was just trying to kind of introduce her to some things, and we were playing through like this is forever ago, but we were playing through the Super Nintendo Zelda, um,
Mhm.
and she got okay far, I guess. Like she got to the dark world. Like she didn't just quit out right away. She did a decent portion of the game, which was very interesting for me to be watching. But excuse me, I just found it really frustrating. Like I'm watching her like die against the easiest enemies and stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think this problem exists with me and my level of patience or something. I don't know,
yeah.
but like obviously if you switch out the adult you're doing this with a 3-year old that loses interest with things fairly quickly, it's it becomes a frustrating experience for everyone, right? And so we've gotten stuck on that a little bit.
For me, I find kind of the same thing. Like I tried playing A Link to the Past with my wife several years ago, and we got as far as, I think, escaping Hyrule Castle with Zelda at the very
Hmm.
beginning of the game, and then she just had no interest in continuing.
Right.
Like, yeah, there have been games that she's been interested in.
Hmm.
Like we really enjoyed playing Fez together.
Right on.
Um, but yeah, she's not nearly as into it. She has been recently, like because my kid is really into it. He's been pulling her into it, so
Right
they've
on.
actually played through a couple games on their own that I didn't participate in, which has been cool for me. Just being able to see her getting some appreciation out of a hobby,
Yeah. Yep.
and I'm just like not even involved.
Yep.
Um, uh, but yeah, I think there's definitely something to the fact that like he started off so completely useless, and I was slowly coaching him on like, letting him take his time with games where it's just like there's no pressure, just pick some flowers if that's what you want to do.
Right on.
And he's been able to slowly build a comfort, and I've never really head to get that frustrated with them. Like there have been some puzzle games that I've played that were frustrating because it's like
Mm-hmm.
we'll almost have it right, like he's got to be like standing in a certain spot or something, and then he gets impatient and he steps out of the way and everything falls apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like, what are you doing? Why do we have to do this all over again? uh but no, it's been good. I like, probably Untitled Goose Game is the example where that's happened, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like um there's like the backyard with the fence, and there's the two different neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you've got to kind of like organize
Yeah.
their behavior between each other, and he'll like throw something off when I'm in the middle of something, and then it just like resets all the progress I did.
Yep.
um
Been there with that game in that play.
but to the same thing, like that's a game that like kind of, where you were saying like the games used to be like super difficult and stuff, it's like he hasn't really played any of these Nintendo difficult games.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a game that I found super interesting, because he, after we played that, got really into it, and he would look up videos on YouTube and watch people playing through that game, and he started getting really interested in glitches and hacks and stuff. And so he's able to like use exploits to get like straight from the beginning of the game to the bar at the end of the game
Wow,
without
that's
doing the
nuts.
whole rest of the game. And so it's like, it's interesting because he's got this interested in like seeing how things work and seeing how he can break stuff. And to me, that's a much safer place than like him taking apart my toaster.
Yeah. Fair, fair. Very fair, very fair. That's funny.
Anyway, we're coming up on about an hour here. So
We are indeed.
what game are you playing right now? I can't remember if you mentioned at the beginning.
I didn't. I haven't really been playing anything. It's been kind of a busy job cycle for me, so not a
Okay.
lot going on. Sneaking in some EVO every now and then. I mean, I'm at the end of this stupid game,
Right.
and I could probably sit down for an hour and just finish it and be done with it. But I've been looking forward to playing Snatcher. I
Right.
feel like I've been talking about it forever. I set the system up. I was all excited to play it, and then I decided I would finish EVO and Final Fantasy 9. Now I never want to play Final Fantasy 9 again, or 8, or any of them.
When was the
Uh,
last time you played 9?
I
Was it
don't even.
recent, or did you give up on that?
It's been quite a while. It's been probably a couple months. Yeah, I just have zero interest. I feel like I'm just crossing something off the list. Like I
It,
just want to be able to say to people, yeah, I played all those games. Of course I have. And it's just not fun. It's just totally not interesting to me at all. Totally zero interest.
yeah.
EVO is more fun. Which EVO, I overall like the game. It just drags. Like it's kind of not. It just feels at this point like just another thing to check off the list. Also, um, so how about you?
Working through the last campfire. So all three of us are doing that together, just chilling on the sofa playing that one.
Right on.
Um, and then when I'm getting the odd hour of spare time at night, I'm playing Sniper Elite 4.
Okay.
So, nice, calm, arty, exploratory, peaceful games with my family during the day, and then murder simulators at night.
Right on. That's the typical parent experience, I'm sure,
Yeah, it's
or
it's
atypical.
it's got this like really gruesome kill cam thing where like you do like a headshot on someone from like 200 meters away, and it like does a slow motion zoom in on the bullet as it leaves your gun and follows it all the way through their brain, and you see like their eyeball exploding out and the skulls fracturing and everything. It's
Are you sure you don't want to play this with your 6-year-old?
like, I've been considering it, but I don't know.
I
What,
mean, Dory was scary, right?
yeah,
This will be fine.
yeah,
So
yeah. Anyway, I guess that's a
yeah,
wrap.
that's a wrap. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your week.